First, you mentioned something general. General is usually something that does not fit the rest of it. Let's say the price of something is a general measure, whether something is expensive or not. Then size, like big, small, shape, roundish, blockish, etc. Age, young, old, color, blue, black, etc. Participle, anything that ends in ed or ing comes after general, size, shape, age, color. Origin, let's say French. Material, like plush or plastics or something like that. And then you have the pre-modifying noun and the head noun. If there are two of the same type, which is not going to happen in this exercise, you put the shorter one in the number of syllables before the longer one. Okay, now I will stop sharing very briefly my presentation in order to show you on my camera how I use your attendance list because I don't have enough screens to look at the chat and the attendee list and the slides. So I think that you should be able to see my camera now. I don't know if it's visible because I cannot see actually my camera. I don't see what you see, but this is the list. And then I put a paper clip and then I just move it to the person that is the next one. So in this case, the first person on the list is Angela Jankovic. And that's how I use a combination of high technology that creates the list and old-fashioned paper and paper clips for following the order. So let me turn off the camera and reshare the screen. So, Angela.
Hello.
Hello. You want to buy a hair dryer that's German, blue, and small. How do you say that?
A small blue German hair dryer.
Excellent. So small is, of course, the size, right? Blue is color, and German is origin. So small is size, blue color, German origin, perfect order. Okay, the next person is Dunya.
I'm here.
Hi, Dunya.
A cheap, flat, black leather wallet.
Excellent. Cheap is probably general because, if something is $2, it's cheap. Flat is not size, but shape. Black is color, leather is material. Sometimes it's not clear whether something is material or noun. Leather is a noun, but it's also material, but it doesn't change. It goes to the final position. Thank you. Now it's Isidora's turn.
So, a lovely red Japanese fountain pen.
Lovely red. Lovely is subjective, the first instance of subjective, and the rest is clear, right? Red is red is color, Japanese is origin, fountain pen is the head noun. Jovan.
So the next one.
Yeah, notice that China is not capitalized.
Yeah,
so it's not origin, it's actually the material, the porcelain.
So it would be the last. And so around white Italian China table lamp.
Yes, exactly. So round is, of course, shape, white is color, Italian is origin, and China with the minuscule c, not the capital C, is material. Thank you, Jovan. And now it's time for Jovana to join us.
An awful Egyptian copper coffee set.
Yes. Awful is subjective because, you know, some old age pensioners may look at the same copper coefficient and say, oh, it's so lovely, right? Egyptian is origin, and copper is again either material or noun. Sometimes it's not possible to say which exactly it is. After Jovana and Jovan, it's time for Luca. So Luca, the screen is yours.
Peaceful little Belgian city.
Yes, peaceful is again subjective because what's peaceful for you may be terribly, you know, wild and unruly for, again, the old age pensioner. Little is size and Belgian is origin. Thank you, Luca. Mara, you have swimming trunks, red ones, so definitely not Borat, but funny.
A funny red nylon in the same way.
Yeah, if they were green, we could argue that they are maybe Borat swimming trunks. He won a Golden Globe, you see, it pays off to be stupid or pretend to be stupid, actually. Yeah, so funny, red, nylon swimming trunks. Funny is subjective because somebody could say serious, red is color, nylon material. Thank you, Mara. And Mila is to do the last one. Mila?
I'd say old red embroidered leather slippers.
Yes. So old is definitely age. Red is color. Embroidered could, you know, you could argue where you should qualify its meaning. Maybe it's general, but you don't care because it ends in ed, and all participles go to this position behind everything else, but in front of origin and material. So in other words, no matter what it means, ed and ing participle always go before origin but behind everything else. And leather is again material or noun, so it has to be the last one. Thank you, Mila. So and thank you all who have participated so far. This is going very quickly, so I'm really happy because of that and because of you. So Milena, before you start doing this, let me explain it, and I may actually even do the first one to illustrate the point. So I did not scan the instructions, so it just says exercise 7, page 103, but this exercise is about discontinuous adjective phrases. We already talked about discontinuous adjective phrases, and I will try to maybe use my pen if it works. Oh, it could work. So let's say that somebody is too difficult. No. Okay, I won't use my pen. it behaves weirdly. So I can actually try to write. So somebody is too difficult to teach. And you want to say that that somebody is, so this is an adjective phrase, too difficult with double O. And you want to combine this, too difficult to teach, with the noun phrase, a boy. You cannot say a too difficult to teach boy. It sounds terrible. Even if you're an, you know, very basic learner of English, you feel that it sounds wrong. The reason why it feels wrong is that when you have a complex adjective phrase like this one, so it only happens with complex adjective phrases that have post modification. So this is post modification. You put the beginning in front of a noun, so you say too difficult, a boy, and then you put the complement of the adjective phrase, the post modification, behind the noun. So you say too difficult, a boy to teach. On the other hand, if you don't have the pre-modification, so if you don't have to, if you just have difficult to teach, again, you cannot say a difficult to teach boy, but then you can say a difficult boy to teach. So if the complex adjective phrase has no pre-modification, only post-modification, the adjective goes between the determiner and the noun, and the post-modification goes behind the noun. So a difficult boy to teach. But if you have pre-modification and post-modification, then the pre-modification and the adjective go before the determiner. Too difficult a boy, and then the post-modification of the adjective goes behind the noun. Too difficult a boy to teach. So in my case, I will do the first one. Is this camera easy to use? Easy to use has only the head plus post modification, so no pre-modification. That means that the adjective easy will go between the determiner and the noun, but we don't have already the determiner. I have to insert it. So is this an easy camera to use? And now I think that Miljana can step in, and you have one of the best examples. This sounds like you could do public relations for presidents if you do it correctly.
So his argument was too strong to be expressed in public. His argument was too strong.
Okay, but you are now paraphrasing again with an adjective phrase. You want to have this complex adjective phrase, too strong to be expressed in public. This is actually the adjective phrase. The head is strong, and you have pre-modifying adverb and a post-modifying clause. So you want to that to be inside a noun phrase, together with a noun phrase. So you will do what I did. He's too difficult a boy to teach. So start by saying his was too, and then continue.
His was too strong an argument to be expressed in public.
Yes. Did you feel shivers running down your spine? How wonderful that was, right? His was too strong an argument to be expressed in public. For example, if you do public relations for companies, politicians, corporations, small businesses, whatever, and you get asked a difficult question, you can say, that is too difficult a question to be explained in a short press conference. So call me and let's do a follow-up. Right, so these are fancy phrases that you can use in formal situation, and they sound amazing. His was too strong an argument to be expressed in public. That is too difficult a question to be answered in a short press conference, etc. Okay, thank you, Miljana. That was perfect. When I gave you the right guidance, you were paraphrasing, but yeah, this is now the right thing. Great job. Now it's Nikolina Kvrgic.
Hello.
Hello.
It is a house big enough for two families to live in. It is a big enough house for two families to live in.
Yeah, except for the position of the article. It is big enough.
It is big, yes.
Enough a house.
A house, yes.
Yeah, so it is big enough house for two. So whenever the adjective phrase contains pre-modification, so now I'm not using my pen, but again, the whole point is that you remember when I told you that adverbs are treated as pre-modification. Even two adverbs that go behind the adjective head, so enough and indeed, You remember when I told you when we were talking about adjectives, they are behind the adjective, but they are treated as pre-modifiers. Exactly in these examples, you can see why we treat them as pre-modifiers. Because big enough behaves like too strong or too big. So big enough, a house. Whenever you have pre-modification, the article goes behind the adjective. Big enough, a house for two families, not a big enough house for two families. And after Nikolina, Svetlana, to wrap it all up.
I need as big table as possible.
I need as big, and then you need an article. I need as big
a table.
A table as possible. Yes, I need as big a table as possible. This is the same thing. As big is treated as pre-modification plus adjective. So yeah, these are wonderful constructions. So always try to use them to your advantage in essay writing and whatever you're writing, your copywriting, if you're, if you sell your services on Upwork or Freelancer. Of course, you have to pay taxes. Many of our students now have issues with that, so don't let that happen to you. I'm not joking. Yeah, this is not being recorded. Barem ja lično sam primio 15 mailova od bivših studenta koji su me pitali šta da rade, da li sam ja imao isti problem, šta se dešava sa ovim ljudima koji su radili na ABC tutoru i sličnim platformama. Je li vama došlo?
Nije došlo još uvek. Samo se pitam, sreća pa sam ja prešao na privatne klijente i većim delom.
Da, ali čisto da znate, znači ja imam igrom slučaja, ja sam imao, radio sam consulting za agenciju za evropske integracije, održavao sam im neke radionice. I onda su mi oni rekli da napravim preduzetničku radnju. I onda, to je meni u stvari bilo skupo, ja sam plaćao tu preduzetničku radnju nekih 6 meseci, to izađe solidnih 20.000 dinara da vi održavate preduzetničku radnju, ali su mi rekli to moram zbog poreza i onda sam plaćao taj poreza i naravno to se isplati ako ne znam, vi dobijete mesečno 800 evra, a date na poreze 350. A ako dobijate 200-300 evra, onda ste u minusu, tako da ne znam šta da vam kažem, ali obavezno prijavljujte nekako te poreze. Može navodno i sam čovek da prijavljuje, to mi je rekla jedna isto bivša studentkinja, da ona vodi arhivu koliko je para primila, jer sve što vam legne na račun u banci, poreska uprava vidi i možete posle da imate problem da niste platili porez. Ako mislite da ste pametni pa recimo primate preko Pionira, ni to vam ne vredi jer je poreska uprava poslala dopis Pioniru da im dostave sve spiskove korisnika iz Srbije, tako da...
Ja primam na dinarski za sada, mislim, snašao sam se nekako.
Dobro je, ako imate, to će onda van ovog razgovora, čućemo se mailom, da prenesem našim studentkinjama i studentima vaše iskustva, ali povežite se ako vas zanima, znači jako puno naših studenta je u ovom udruženju freelancera. I znam da mnogi od njih su čak hteli da plate porez, ali su im rekli da ne treba da plaćaju, sad imaju problem. A neki od njih su zarađivali već 5 godina. Zamislite kad zarađujete između 500 i 1000 evra mesečno od toga, ne plaćate porez i dobijete rešenje, jedna naša studentkinja je dobila rešenje na 6000 evra poreskog duga. 700 i nešto hiljada dinara sa zateznom kamatom. Tako da porez je nešto što izgleda, svi moramo da platimo. Znam da boli, ali ozbiljno, ako imate neke ideje, javite se, puno kolega je tamo i mogu i oni da vam daju neke svoje sugestije i Ja nemam problem, ali sam duboko u njemu jer me puno njih pita i prevodio sam nešto za udruženje da im pomognem, neki spisak aktivnosti za oporezivanje. Okay. Now, let's forget about that. Sorry, that was a digression, but taxes and death are the only certainties in life. So you have to die eventually and you have to pay taxes. Now we will talk about adjective clauses. Adjective clauses, just like discontinuous adjective phrases, are grammatical constructions that can impress native English speakers and readers a lot because they are considered the pinnacle, like the top of, English use and English skills. And if you use them properly in your writing, of course, you cannot use them everywhere, but especially in a narrative writing, when you're describing events or describing some dynamic events, they sound really amazing. So adjective clauses are classified into three groups. Verbose adjective clauses, this is something like nervous, he opened the door. That means you have an adjective, you can deconstruct this adjective as a clause, he was nervous, and then he opened the door. Contingent adjective clauses are like verbose adjective clauses, but they also have a conjunction or a subordinated. So instead of saying nervous, you say when nervous, count to 10. So when nervous, when is a subordinated, nervous is still an adjective. So contingent and verbose adjective clauses are almost the same. The only difference is whether there is a conjunction at the beginning or there is no conjunction. But these two are always attached to the main clause. So nervous, he opened the door. When nervous, count to 10. There are also adjective clauses that are not attached to anything. They are used by themselves, alone. These are exclamatory adjective clauses. These are things such as amazing, wonderful, how nice of you, so kind of you, so beautiful, so cute, wow, so nice. All of these are exclamatory adjective clauses. So let's now do the exercise number 10 on page 106. So this is about transforming these sentences so that you have a verbose adjective clause. So the students were eager to start the climb and they rose at first light. So you want to rewrite it as something in Serbian. You would say željni da se penju, studenti su se probudili u samu zoru. Je li sad Svetlana ili Valentina na redu? Igrao sam se s pajalicom. Greška. Hello?
Mislim da sam ja.
A vi ste?
Valentina.
Valentina, ok. Ja ne vidim ekran, izvinjavam se, Valentina. Valentina, the screen is yours.
So the students were eager to start the climb and they rose at first light. Eager to start the climb, the students rose at first light.
Exactly. Eager to start the climb, the students rose at first light. And just compare these two sentences and you will see how immensely more dynamic this second one sounds, the one that you just made, Valentina. So try to use these things in narrative writing, essays that describe events, or if you're writing for, I don't know, blogs, if you describe your journeys and you want to say that, the destination was amazing, try to insert these verbose adjective clauses. They sound really good. Okay, now Verica.
Me čujete?
Apsolutno, jako lepo vas čujemo.
Okay. When you're in a climate you're not used to dress sensibly.
Okay, Verica, just a second. to clarify, because we had the same issue in the previous two groups. So if you want to say when in a climate you're not used to dress sensibly, that's a perfect. But I know, but I just talked to. So if you want to paraphrase it as when in a climate you're not used to dress sensibly, that's okay. And that would be a perfect solution in any other situation except this exercise. Because when in a climate you're not used to is not an adjective verbose adjective clause. It's a prepositional adjective clause, a prepositional verbose clause. It's when in a climate is a prepositional phrase. So you need to come up with an adjective, verbose adjective phrase. And now the screen is yours. Sorry, Valentina. Verica, I was just...
No, I misunderstood. So, when not used to a climate, dress sensibly.
Yes, when not used to the climate, dress sensibly. That's the only solution if you're aiming for an adjective clause, because used to is a participle, but all participles can be used as adjectives. So when not used to the climate, dress sensibly, that's a verbose adjective clause. When in a climate you're not used to, that's a verbose clause, but a prepositional clause. Good job, Verica. Vladimir?
They were excited and they shouted loud. Excited, they shouted loud.
And don't you agree, Vladimir, that this sounds way more dynamic, right?
Yes.
Yeah, very good. So this is what you should use always when you want to convey a sense of urgency, dynamic, rapid events, strong emotions, etc. Okay, the circle is complete. So I'm moving my paper clip to the beginning of the list. Angela?
If it is possible, try to work out every day. If possible, try to work out every day.
Yes, and what you just said is the most common verbose adjective clause. If possible is the typical contingent verbose adjective clause. Great. So now, if you noticed, every exercise has a different topic. So we are addressing virtually all topics on adjectives, but unlike, for example, the verb phrase or a noun phrase, where we had several exercises on the same topic, here we always have just one exercise per topic. So now we will go to the exercise that deals with inherent and non-inherent adjectives and the classification. So we are moving from adjective clauses and also discontinuous adjective phrases and order of adjectives to semantics, the meanings of adjectives. So just to remind you, inherent and non-inherent is about whether the adjective describes directly the properties of a noun, or it describes them indirectly in a metaphoric way. So a human being is a being. So just like all animate things, even, I don't know, plants, except for bacteria and viruses, animals and beings have feelings. So a girl can be inherently happy because living beings have feelings. A rock cannot be inherently happy because a rock has no brain, no neurons, it cannot be happy. Similarly, rock, Dwayne Johnson, cannot be inherently hard. No matter how pumped up he is, when you touch him with your finger, there will be some flexibility to his skin. So he's not hard as a rock. Only a rock with a minuscule r, not capital R, can be inherently hard. You remember in the lecture, we did the first 4 to illustrate this theoretical concept. So if you did not attend the lecture, and since I had issues with encoding videos recorded in Google Meet, I did not upload them. So I will just, to be on the safe side, go quickly through what we did. So the poor guy is really unhappy. Poor is non-inherent because guy, like a human being, cannot be inherently poor. You can be inherently young or old or big and small, or I don't know, tall or short or heavy or skinny, but poor, that's not biological. Unhappy is inherent because human beings have emotions, so you can be inherently unhappy or sad. The main argument is non-inherent because the argument can be good or bad, solid or weak, but main is not inherent in the argument. It's external. So the main argument for you may be completely, secondary argument for somebody else. The same applies to the only one. Main and the only are the same in meaning almost. A hard worker is non-inherent because worker is a human being. And soft heart is also non-inherent because it doesn't refer to the properties of heart, but to emotions that the person expresses. A big eater is non-inherent because it refers not to the size of the man as an eater, but to the size of that man's appetite. I actually know some big eaters who have really, super fast metabolism, so they are actually quite skinny, but they eat a lot. But the big eater is often a big man. That's inherent because a big man, people do have size. So that's inherent. Okay, now after Angela, I think it's Dunja's turn. Dunja?
Profesore, izvinite samo da vas prekinem, možete proveriti da li sam na spisku ili me niste prozvali u prošlom krugu?
A vi ste?
Luka Manojlović.
Aha. Jeste se vi uključili koji minut kasnije?
Da.
Bit će da je zato. Ok, ništa, ponovo pokrećem plugin. Pa onda ništa, da ne bih sad ponovo štampo, dopisat ću vas samo. Luka Manojlović. Ok, to je to. Ali svakako je Dunja na redu, jel?
Yes.
Ok, Dunja, the screen is yours.
Perfect is inherent.
Yes, a solution can be perfect inherently, but there are very few perfect solutions in real life, but occasionally we do have one.
And a perfect genius is non-inherent.
Yes, because genius is a human being, and a human being is, I don't know, tall, short, happy, unhappy, but not perfect inherently. Okay, great. Thank you, Dunja. Now Isidora.
A strong supporter, I think it's non-inherent.
Yes, and the strong support does not refer to the strength of the supporter in a physical sense, but to his support to, let's say, a political cause, environmental cause, whatever they are supporting, so non-inherent. A strong supporter would be maybe inherent if that strong supporter is also Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. But we don't know that, so non-inherent. Thank you. Jovan?
Heavy smoker is also non-inherent.
Yes, so what is heavy is his habit, not the person itself. Very often a heavy smoker is actually a skinny man. Or person. Great. Jovana?
A heavy suitcase is inherent.
Yes, suitcase can be, put on a scale and measured in weight, so it's inherent. And of course, if you're over the limit, when we go back to normal, you will have to pay extra at the airport if you have a heavy suitcase. Luka Erakovic, and then Luka Manojlovic. But first,
an old friend of mine, non-inherent.
Yes, because you're referring to the age of friendship, not the age of the friend. And Luka Manojlovic?
That man is old, that's inherent.
Yes, that's inherent because human beings and all animate things can be young or old. Okay, now we finished several topics on adjectives. We will now focus on a completely new topic that we haven't directly addressed. So I think the next person is Mara. So Mara, don't worry, it will be at least 5 or 6 minutes before we get you get the screen and the floor and the audio to do the exercise. I have to make a theoretical introduction. This is something that I noticed in previous groups that maybe I did not explain enough in the lecture, so I added some slides in the meantime. So we will be doing the fourth exercise, but in order to do it properly, here's background, theoretical background. So all adjectives based on how they behave in a sentence and their grammatical capabilities are either central or peripheral. Central means that they can, they are like happy. Just remember, happy is central if you need to memorize principles. What does it mean? It means that the adjective can be attributive, a happy girl. Happy modifies the noun, so it's an attributive adjective. Or it can be predicative, a subject and an object component. The girl is happy, he made her happy. Adjectives that can be both attributive and predicative are therefore called central. If you have an adjective that can be attributive but not predicative, or can be predicative but not attributive, so it can be one of those things but not both, that's peripheral. So the most famous examples are utter and afraid. Utter can only be attributive, so an utter fool, but you cannot say the fool is utter. Peripheral is also those that are predicative only. So utter, these are called attributive only. Afraid, they are called predicative only because you cannot say an afraid woman. So these ones are only used predicatively, these ones only attributively. They belong to this group of peripheral. So peripheral adjectives are those that are either used in front of the nouns, attributive only, or as subject and object complements, predicative only. The problem here, and what you have to know for the oral exam, in the written exam, it is enough to know that something is attributive or predicative. But for oral exam, it's necessary to know the subclassification. So attributive only can be intensifying adjectives, which are subdivided into emphasizers, amplifiers, downtoners. They can be restrictive or limiter adjectives. So the main example, the best example is the main reason. So of many reasons, you restrict the meaning of the reason to the one which you consider the main, or a particular person. Of all the persons, you are talking about one particular, so you limit the meaning, you restrict the meaning. Adjectives related to adverbials, heavy, smoker, former, king, former president, and those derived from nouns, denominal. Criminal also, crime, criminal. Atom, atomic, atomic scientist. So that's the basic classification. Plus predicative only are also, let's say, not also, they are on the contrary quite straightforward. Unlike attributive only, which have 4 subgroups, predicative only are usually just A adjectives. Things such as she is afraid, he is ashamed, we are asleep, they are alive. So A adjectives that are Anglo-Saxon, not new adjectives borrowed from Latin, Greek, French, etc., like avid, affectionate, etc. But there are also some that do not start in A, but are also predicative only. So, for example, keen on golf, you cannot say he's a keen on golf person, or a keen golf on person. No, it's terrible. Keen, conscious of, fond of, they are also predicative only, but generally only A adjectives. So now I would like just to give you a short overview of those attributive only adjectives so that you remember these 4 groups. And then in the 4th exercise, we will actually apply that classification. So first of all, let me say that attributive only adjectives do not characterize the referent of the noun directly. So in other words, attributive only adjectives are typically non-inherent. So you cannot paraphrase an utter fool and say the fool is utter. Or an old friend of mine, my friend is old. But what you have to have in mind is that you should never think of a particular adjective as always being either attributive or predicative only. It depends on the meanings. So one and the same adjective can have 5, 6, sometimes up to 10 or 11 meanings, and those meanings can behave differently. So the first meaning of old is having lived for a long time, no longer young. That meaning is actually central. An old man entered the room. The man who entered the room is old. So you can use it both attributively or predicatively. So this one is central. But the third meaning, long established or known, an old friend helped me, the friend who helped me was old, it's not the same. So what's old is the friendship. That's actually non-inherent. This is attributive only. Predicative is wrong. And then, for example, expressing affection, familiarity, good old mom wants some time off. This is again attributive only, because good old mom doesn't really mean old. It's more like beloved, dear mom. So always bear in mind that whether something is central, attributive, or predicative only depends on the meaning. You can have one and the same adjective being central, attributive, or predicative only in different senses. And now let's look at those 4 groups. So attributive only can be intensifying, restrictive, which are also called limiters, which is maybe a better term, adjectives related to adverbials, and denominal adjectives. So first, let's deal with those intensifying ones. Intensifying ones are subdivided into 3 groups, but they have a general heightening or lowering effect. So they intensify either upwards or downwards. So it doesn't matter whether you want to say that something is, extremely stupid or marginally stupid, but you are moving the meaning of the adjective to a higher or to a lower extreme. So those are therefore emphasizers. When you say that you have pure property, sheer madness, so not just a bit of madness, but sheer madness, there's like 99% madness. Amplifiers, complete fool, so you are pushing to a higher end, or downtoners, slight effort, so you are lowering the effect. And they are, as I mentioned, attributive only. The second group are not intensifying. They are actually called restrictive adjectives. Restrictive adjectives, or limiter adjectives, are called this way because they restrict the reference of the noun. So the best example is already mentioned, the main reason. You cannot say the reason was main. A certain person, you cannot say the person was certain. I mean, you can, but that it means something completely different. The very man, you cannot say the man was very. So very here, by the way, is an adjective. Normally it's an adverb, but rarely very can be an adjective. And the 2 remaining groups are adjectives related to adverbials. These are again attributive only. My former friend, you cannot say my friend is former. Past students, you cannot say the students are past. And the late present, you cannot say the present is late. I mean, you can, but it means something completely different. The last group are those denominal adjectives. Denominal means that they are derived from nouns. Again, they are attributive only. A criminal lawyer, you cannot say the lawyer is criminal unless you want to say that he's a really bad lawyer. And an atomic scientist, you cannot say the scientist is atomic. We are all atomic, if you think about it. We are all made of atoms, but the meaning here is that he specializes in atomic sciences. And with that, I explained to you subgroups of attributive only adjective. When it comes to predicative only adjectives, as I mentioned, they are typically A adjectives, afraid, aware, but also some that are not A adjectives, fond of, loath to, tantamount to, etc. And now, after this entire discussion, we get to exercise 4, where you have to identify the italicized adjective as either being central or peripheral. If it's peripheral, you have to say whether it's attributive or predicative only. If it's predicative only, that's the end of story. There's no subclassification of predicative adjectives. But if it's attributive only, it would be really good if you could say whether it's an intensifier, so boosts up like an amplifier, downtones, or simply emphasizes the meaning, or it's a restrictor or limiter related to adverbials, or denominal related to nouns. So I spoke for a long, long time, but now I think it's Mara's turn. Mara Gvozdenovic. Mara, can you hear us?
Yes.
And we
The
can
main
hear you.
cause. Okay.
Can you say the
So the
cause
main
is main?
no,
Great. Okay. So
it's peripheral.
excellent. Now, that's not the end of the story. Now, is it attributive or predicative only?
I would say attributive.
Yes, because the main cause is okay, so attributive function is okay. The cause is main is bad, so predicative is out, so it's attributive only. Now, is it intensifier, restrictive, related to adverbials, or denominal?
Maybe restrictive.
Yes, restrictive. So it restricts the meaning of the noun to something more specific. So great. Mara, that was excellent. Now let's hear Mila Jovic.
A complete idiot. Complete is peripheral, attributive only.
Great. Can you guess the subgroup, maybe?
It's an intensifier.
Very good. Intensifier, yes. So we had a nice discussion in the previous group. So there is a possibility that this is central, but you have to go to horror movies to make it work. So if you are some kind of a Dr. Frankenstein, so no, you take pieces of dead bodies from the cemetery, but you don't want to create, the Frankenstein monster. You want to create an idiot monster. And then, you patch up different parts of bodies, put some electricity, you revive your dead idiot, and then you say the idiot is complete. Only in that sense it can be central. But Mara, sorry, it was Mara, right? No, it was Mila, right? Mila, you're a normal person, so you did not come up with this interpretation, so good job. Okay, Miljana is for C.
A healthy boy, healthy is central.
Yes, you can say the boy is healthy. Isn't it wonderful, Miljana, when you get a central adjective?
Yes.
Yes, those are the nicest ones. Okay, Nicolina.
Afraid of the dark, it's peripheral.
Mm-hmm.
And predicative.
Predicative only. So predicative only are the next best thing to central. So for central, just say central. For predicative only, well, you have to say it's peripheral and predicative only, but again, no sub-classification. Great. Svetlana?
Possible answer is central.
Yes, you can say the answer is possible. Again, what a nice adjective, right, Svetlana? Right.
Well,
Yeah, okay, you had to do some work, but then you just say central. And we have Valentina for the solar system.
The solar system is peripheral.
Excellent. What subtype?
Attributive only.
Okay, and the subtype?
Denominal.
Mm-hmm. It's actually derived from Latin, sol solis. You know the song, O Sole Mio. So yeah, it's denominal. Very good. Thank you, Valentina. Now let's talk about the injured people, Verica.
The injured people, it's central.
Yes, you can say the people are injured, right?
Yeah.
Good. That's a one nice, well-behaved adjective, central. Vladimir Jovic.
An only child, it's peripheral.
Uh-huh.
And attributive only.
Great. Can you guess the subtype, subtype?
Yes, it's restrictive.
Yes, it restricts the meaning to the only child. Excellent. And now we are ready for the next circle. So we start from Angela, inner. Angela, are you here?
Inner strength, I'm here.
Good,
Inner
good.
strength, that's peripheral.
Uh-huh. You cannot say the
And-
strength is inner. Uh-huh.
And attributive only.
Great. Can you guess the subtype?
I think it's related to adverbial.
Yes, related to adverbials. Excellent. I made a small mistake here. I wrote related to adverbs, but at the bottom of the slide it's written correctly, related to adverbials. Thank you, Angela. And actually your example is a perfect introduction to our final topic for the day, and those are exercises on adverbs. So we finished all the exercises that deal with adjectives. Now we have to refocus on adverbs, and we will do it in several stages. The first is a warm-up exercise. That's the first one, the exercise number 1 on page 103. If you remember, when we were doing our first practice class, we skipped D, E, and P sentences because they contained only adverb phrases, and we were looking back then only at adjective phrases. So now I think it's Dunya's turn. So Dunya, can you find an adverb phrase and tell us what the head and what the pre-modification or post-modification is?
Yes, so he plays the piano surprisingly well. The phrase is surprisingly well.
Mm-hmm.
Well is the head.
Great.
And surprisingly is adverbial.
Adverb.
Adverb.
Modifying adverb. Great. Excellent. Thank you. Now, after Dunya, it's time for Isidora.
I hope to meet him soon, though. I think the adverbial is soon, and it's the head.
Yes, so the adverb and the adverbial. So adverb as a part of speech and the adverb phrase as a function adverbial is soon. Is there something else that could be an adverb as well?
Well, maybe though.
So some dictionaries will list though as a conjunction. But remember, I don't know if you attended the lecture, but I told you that adverbials actually are not all the same. There are three types of adverbials: adjuncts, disjuncts, and conjuncts. Conjuncts are like conjunctions, but they don't link clauses, they link sentences. So though, according to more than 60%, let's say, of dictionaries, is actually an adverb. Which functions as this adverbial subtype, which we call conjuncts. In the same group, you have however, therefore, to. Though, you know, the one that you say, I love you too, comma, too, that's also a conjunct. Okay, thank you. That's Isidora. Now, Jovan.
The affair could end disastrously for you. Disastrously for you. So
yes,
the head disastrously.
Good.
That's the head. And
what's this thing for you? As a phrase,
prepositional phrase.
Great, it's a prepositional phrase. So exercise 1 doesn't contain all the possibilities for adverb phrases. So there's also a possibility for the adverb phrase to have a clause in the post modification, but we don't have it in the exercise. Thank you. That was Jovan. Now, Jovan, stay tuned, but let me make an introduction to your exercise. That's exercise 14. We are skipping a lot in terms of numbers of exercises. So this is an exercise on adverb phrases. The whole point of the exercise is to show you what we discussed in the lecture both this week and the previous week. There are words that can belong to more than one part of speech. So, for example, I can do the first one. If you are the first person to hear the news, you hear it first. So the first, this one, is actually a quantifier. It's a type of determiner. This first is not a determiner. It's an adverb. So there are many words like that that can be determiners or adverbs. There are also words that can be adjectives and adverbs, prepositions and adverbs. For example, before 5 o'clock, that's preposition. I have never heard it before. Before is an adverb. So this exercise is about those pairs. So in every sentence, you have first, let's say, an adjective, and then you have to use it as an adverb. Or in some cases, that's not possible. And in those cases, for example, the most famous example is friendly. Let's say she treated him friendly in a friendly way. You cannot say she treated him friendly. Friendly together with motherly, cowardly, brotherly, silly, lovely, and several others is an ly word, which is not an adverb but an adjective. So you can never greet somebody friendly. You can only greet in a friendly way. Great. So now, what did we say? Jovana, right?
If you are the last person to hear the news, you hear it last.
Great. So your first last was a quantifier, a subtype of determiner. Your second last is an adverb. Luka Erakovic.
If a plane is high in the sky, it is flying high.
Yes, again, the second one is an adverb. The first one is an adjective. Good. Luka Manojlovic.
What a silly thing to do. You acted in a silly way.
Yes, yes, in a silly way, not silly, not sillily or something like that, in a silly way, silly manner. Or if you're a British nobility, you can say you acted in a silly fashion or something like that, you know, how the Queen speaks. But normally, yeah, as you said, the normal people say in a silly way. Thank you to two Lucas. Now we have the one and only Mara.
If you are either early or late for a meeting, you arrive early or late.
Yes, so again, the first two, early or late for a meeting, are adjectives. This one, early or late, are adverbs.
Are adverbs.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Mara. Mila?
She cannot control her motherly feelings. Although she's 40, she looks after him in a motherly way.
Yes, again, you cannot say motherly because motherly is in this same group as silly, lovely, brotherly, cowardly, friendly. It's an ly word, which is an adjective, not an adverb. So when you want to use it as an adverb, you have to do it in a roundabout way, in a motherly way. Great, that was Mila. And now Miljana.
Of the two, John is the clearer speaker. He speaks more clearly.
Yes, more clearly. So this is an adjective and this is an adverb, what you created, and it's an adverb in the comparative form. Okay, and as I promised, we will end earlier. My assumption is that we would end by 4:20, but most likely we will end by 4:10. Because we only have one additional exercise and you are already ahead of group C, and I didn't prepare more exercises for today, so you are a very quick group, so good job there. So the last exercise for today is about the verbs of perception. So the verbs of perception are active verbs. They're not stative verbs like be or seems. But despite that, verbs of perception like smell, taste, look, feel, etc., they are followed not by adverbs, but by adjectives. So you cannot say the soup tastes well. You have to say the soup tastes good. The only situation where you can combine tasting as a verb and the adverb well, if the verb taste is no longer the verb of perception, but pure activity verb, which denotes conscious effort. Because the soup tastes good, whether you want to taste the soup or not, you simply feel the taste of the soup, right? You cannot turn off your senses. Senses are there, and even Buddhist monks who meditate cannot really turn off their senses. So you can only say well and taste if, for example, the chef is tasting the soups very well in this competition. So, for example, you have young chefs and somebody, you know, like Gordon Ramsay, who's like assessing their cooking skills, and then Gordon Ramsay is tasting their soups very well. He's really good at tasting them to see whether they are really excellent or not. So Miljana, I think, is the next one, but I could be mistaken.
I did the last exercise.
Then it's Nikolina.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, Nicolina, and sorry, Miljana. I was playing with a paper clip on my piece of paper, so it must have moved. Nicolina, what would you say in the first one?
That smells good,
Uh-huh.
but it tastes awful.
Yes, exactly, because these are all verbs of perception. Whether you want it to smell good or not, you cannot do anything about it. That's why you need adjectives. It's not a conscious effort to smell or taste. Svetlana?
Tom cooks well.
Yes, because cooks is not a verb of perception. That's a typical verb, active verb. It needs an adverb. It cannot be modified by adjectives. Valentina?
It doesn't look safe.
It doesn't look safe, yes. There's only one context, and I was not aware of it before, let's say, I started collaborating in my freelancing work with a retired US Marine. US Marines are trained to look safely. So when you're in a battlefield, let's say in a village in Afghanistan, and you are taking shelter behind a wall, and enemy combatants are firing at you, and you want to assess where to move next, then you have to know how to look safely, right? You have to be able to peek behind the wall, but in a safe manner. But since we are not US Marines, this is the only right answer. It doesn't look safe. Okay, Verica, I think is the next one.
Do you feel nervous before a test?
Yes, exactly. Now, let's play devil's advocate, Verica. Is there a context in which you could say, do you feel nervously before a test? And what would it mean then? Do you feel nervously?
Well, I'm not sure.
Let me give you a hint, Verica. When you prepare for the exam, you probably don't drink 5 cans of Red Bull in 15 minutes. But let's say that there are people who will drink, let's say, 5 cans of Red Bull before the exam. And then they are really, agitated. Their heart is pumping, their brain is in, top speed, and they start feeling furniture, paper, pens with their fingers. What would it mean that they feel nervously before a test? Does that give you a context?
Yes. So in that example, they're nervously, what you said, feeling the couch, or I'm not sure.
Yeah. So it is possible, but it's a very marginal possibility. It would mean in Serbian da neko pipka užasno na nervozan način sve oko sebe. Znači, zamislite neko ko pred ispit onako trlja vam jaknu, pa 2 sekunde kasnije grebe po tabli, tako nešto. To bi značilo feeling nervous, pipkati na nervozan način. But the normal meaning is the verb of perception, so do you feel nervous? Znači, ne pipkanje, nego da li se čovek osjeća nervozno. Very good. And now, I think it's Vladimir. Or maybe I skipped somebody. Or
I
is
think
it
it's my
Vladimir?
turn.
Yeah, great. Vladimir?
He looked angry and looked at everyone angrily.
Yes, so looked angry, verb of perception, because that's his appearance, but he was looking at other people, that's a conscious effort, in an angry way, angrily in short. Good. And we have to start a new cycle. So Angela.
She speaks very good English.
Very good English, because good actually is an adjective which modifies English. It's not an adverb for speaking. That's a common mistake, but you didn't fall for it. Good. Dunja?
The flowers smell good.
Yes, the flowers smell good. The flowers can never smell well unless you're in a cartoon and the flowers are alive and they are sniffing other flowers, but that's not very likely. And the last one, the honor to finish the whole exercise and the whole class goes to Isidora. So Isidora, any big words?
No, it's good. He felt strong about that topic.
Okay. He felt strong about that topic. That's probably the first choice. But it is possible to say he felt strongly about the topic, but it has a completely different meaning. When you say he felt strong about that topic, let's say that happens before the oral exam. You studied a lot, but you didn't prepare all the questions equally, but you get the questions that you know very well, and then you can say, I feel strong about this topic, I'm going to, like pass this with flying colors. But if you say that you feel strongly about that topic, what would that mean? It's possible, but very specific context. Isidora, can you think of it?
To be honest, I don't know.
Let's say that this is a topic of, let's say, legalizing marijuana. Maybe you don't know about it a lot, but you feel strongly that Serbia should legalize the pot. You see? Znači, da li osjećate da dobro znate tu tematiku ili ste, da kažem, strastveni oko te teme, veoma vam je prirasla srcu. That's the difference in meaning. Right? Do you sense it now, Isidora? I feel strongly about human rights, or I feel strongly about the Me Too movement. That's the difference. Okay, thank you. So we actually finished neither at 4:10 nor 4:20, but exactly between these two time slots. So it's 4:15 and that's the end. Ako imate neka pitanja, komentare, nešto što biste volili da kažete, sad je pravi trenutak. Ali evo, 5-second rule applies. 5 seconds, you know that rule. If there's silence for 5 or more seconds, everything has been said. So in that case, thank you for your time. I vidimo se sledeće nedelje. Do kraja nedelje ću postaviti snimak prezentacija sa predavanja na YouTube i uploadovati na sajt. Kao što rekao, imao sam problem i dalje mi je razbijena matična ploča na računaru. Iz nekog razloga SSD disk koji sam izvukao iz njega ne mogu da iščitam na ovom drugom računaru. No, sve će biti sređeno. Pozdrav, velik, doviđenja.
Bye.